The galaxy had always watched Earth with cold eyes, eyes filled with both arrogance and calculation. To the mighty alien empires that stretched across the stars, Earth was nothing more than a small blue world, a weak planet crawling with primitive beings who still argued over land and resources while greater civilizations commanded suns and bent time itself. From the distant council halls of the Nine Systems to the war rooms of the Dominion Armada, the same idea was repeated like a mantra: Earth is helpless, Earth is fragile, Earth is prey. For years, their fleets had circled at the edge of human space, hidden cloaks wrapping their ships in silence, studying humanity like hunters stalking a wounded animal. They saw humans launch clumsy satellites, build crude stations, send explorers who barely scratched the edge of their solar system. To the aliens, this was not the beginning of greatness, but the limit of human reach. In their arrogance, they laughed. They told each other Earth would fall without a fight when the time came. They whispered that the planet's only strength was how blind it was to the vastness of the galaxy. Yet in the shadows of those empires, deep within their secret observation stations, something unsettling was happening. Every time humans faced disaster, every time they should have broken, they did not. They survived wars that should have ended them. They endured storms, quakes, plagues, and still rebuilt their cities. Alien commanders noted it in their hidden reports: the species is stubborn. They cling to hope long after logic has failed. And though the Council dismissed such notes as trivial, a few voices whispered in the dark that this stubbornness might be more dangerous than weapons. Still, the invasion plan moved forward. Great armadas assembled, black ships shaped like knives drifting closer to Earth. Within their hulls, generals spoke of conquest as if it was already done, as if the blue planet had no say in its own fate. On Earth itself, people lived unaware of the noose tightening around their skies. The cities glowed at night with lights of cars and towers, lovers walked streets, children dreamed of futures, and no one realized they were marked as spoils of war. The aliens thought this ignorance was proof of weakness, but to some unseen eyes, it was proof of something else, a people unafraid of living despite danger. The night of arrival began without warning. Clouds split over the Pacific as dark shapes slid through the atmosphere, larger than mountains, silent and terrible. Their hulls blotted out the stars, casting shadows over oceans and coasts. Fishermen dropped their nets in terror. Pilots screamed into radios as their instruments failed. Around the world, people lifted their eyes and saw the sky changing into something alien, something alive with menace. Fear spread like fire. Governments scrambled to respond. Militaries prepared weapons that looked like toys against the titanic invaders. Satellites transmitted blurred images that reached every screen within minutes. The truth could no longer be hidden. Humanity was not alone, and the ones who had come were not friends. Across the galaxy, the invasion was broadcast like a show. Civilizations tuned in with detached amusement, waiting to see Earth crushed in a single strike. Alien children laughed at the images of humans panicking, while rulers of empires smirked, confident they were witnessing another forgotten species erased from history. Earth was supposed to scream, kneel, beg for mercy. But just as the fleets descended lower, just as the first weapons charged with crimson light, something happened that no one expected. The skies over Earth rippled with a light not from the alien ships, but from the planet itself. At first it was faint, like a shimmer in the air, a distortion as though space itself was resisting the invasion. The alien generals frowned, sensors scrambled, readings turned to static. Across human cities, people stopped running and stared upward, their fear briefly drowned in awe. A glow began to form high above the atmosphere, stretching wider, brighter, until the whole sky was painted in hues of silver and gold. The alien fleet hesitated. This was not in their calculations. This was not weakness. Across the galaxy, the millions watching fell silent. For the first time, doubt pierced the arrogance of empires. The helpless world was changing before their eyes, and what appeared in the heavens was no cry of surrender, it was something else entirely. Something that would soon shake them all. The sky above Earth glowed with an unearthly light, a living veil of silver and gold that rippled across the atmosphere like the skin of a sleeping giant awakening. The alien fleet, poised for easy conquest, slowed its descent, their formations faltering as the strange phenomenon spread across the planet. Their commanders barked orders, demanding explanations, but the answers were all the same, the readings made no sense. Energy signatures surged beyond known limits, signals jammed their sensors, and distortions rippled through their weapon systems. For the first time, the invaders hesitated. Below, humanity stood in terrified wonder. Soldiers clutching rifles on the coasts paused, their fear mingling with hope as the sky itself seemed to shield them. Families gathered on rooftops, their eyes wide as they watched streaks of light weave into patterns above. What they saw was no human creation, or so they thought. To the aliens, however, the truth began to dawn. This was not a natural phenomenon. It was engineered. A hidden force was rising from Earth. Slowly, like a titan's crown breaking through water, an enormous structure revealed itself from the glowing veil. First, sharp metallic spires pierced the atmosphere, each taller than mountains, gleaming with ancient steel and pulsing with veins of golden energy. Then came the hull, a monstrous vessel hidden in orbit, cloaked in silence for years, perhaps decades. As the full shape emerged, the galaxy gasped. It was not a single ship. It was a fleet. Sleek and massive, armored in alloys unknown to alien science, the ships were unlike anything Earth should have been capable of building. They were silent giants, their hulls engraved with human symbols, eagles, lions, the ancient markings of nations long divided but now fused together into something greater. Across the galaxy's networks, voices erupted in disbelief. "Impossible!" cried a merchant prince watching from a station in the outer belt. Humans were not capable of this. They were still fighting over oil and soil. On the war moon of the Dominion, a general slammed his fist into the table. Lies. They must have been given this technology. No primitive species could create such power. Yet the evidence was before them. The human fleet was real, and it was rising. On Earth, the truth whispered among those who knew the old rumors: humanity had been hiding its strength. For decades, governments and secret alliances had funneled resources into projects hidden deep underground, beneath mountains, inside oceans, far from curious alien eyes. They had watched the stars too, and they had not been blind. While the galaxy thought Earth was sleeping, it was building. And now, the result of that hidden work had finally stepped into the light. The lead ship moved first, a colossal dreadnought that dwarfed even the largest alien battleships. Its hull shimmered with black and silver, and along its spine burned lines of golden light like veins of fire. Slowly, impossibly, the ship turned its broadside toward the invaders, and a voice, clear, steady, and unmistakably human, broadcast across every channel. "This is Earth's sky. Leave now." The words struck like thunder. The alien fleet bristled, their commanders unwilling to be mocked by what they still saw as lesser beings. With a signal of rage, the first alien cruiser opened fire. Crimson beams of plasma ripped through the clouds, aiming straight for the human dreadnought. Millions watching across the galaxy expected the ship to fall, to burn, to be shattered in its first test. Instead, the impossible happened. The beams bent. As they neared the dreadnought, the weapons curved away, folding back like rivers striking an unseen wall, arcing harmlessly into the void. The galaxy fell silent. The human ship did not fire immediately. It waited, deliberate and calm, as if testing the patience of its enemies. Then, with a hum that grew into a roar, its broadside lit up. Golden cannons erupted in perfect synchronization, unleashing a single wave of energy so blinding that night turned to day. The blast tore through the alien cruiser in an instant, splitting it apart as if it were made of paper. The wreckage burned as it fell into the sea, the shockwave rattling the clouds for miles. On Earth, people cried out, not in fear, but in triumph. The first strike was theirs. In the council chambers of distant empires, panic spread like fire. Alien rulers who had mocked humanity now demanded answers. How had Earth achieved this? How had a planet marked as helpless hidden such power? The whispers began, low and dangerous. If humans could do this, then no world was safe from their rise. Above Earth, the human fleet repositioned, its silent wings stretching across the sky like guardians. Ordinary people on the ground could see them now, glittering in orbit, each ship a reminder that humanity was no longer the hunted. The galaxy had expected to witness an execution, but what they saw instead was a revelation. Humanity had stepped onto the stage of the stars not as prey, but as something far more dangerous. And as the alien armada regrouped, preparing to strike again, one truth settled into every watching heart across the galaxy. Earth was not helpless. It was awakening. And what it had shown tonight was only the beginning. The alien armada reeled in disbelief as the wreckage of their cruiser scattered like burning ash across Earth's oceans. For centuries they had conquered without resistance, their fleets crushing entire civilizations with ease, yet here was a single human ship, a dreadnought born from a supposedly primitive world, tearing apart one of their strongest war vessels in a single strike. On the homeworlds of the galaxy's empires, silence filled the great halls. Citizens who had tuned in for entertainment now leaned forward in awe, watching humanity's defiance unfold in real time. This was not the easy conquest they had been promised. This was something else, something dangerous. Above Earth, the alien commanders barked furious orders. Regroup, rearm, destroy the human fleet before the galaxy lost respect for their power. Squadrons of fighters swarmed forward, thousands of sleek alien ships cutting across the atmosphere like blades. Their orders were simple: overwhelm the humans with numbers, crush them before the illusion of their strength spread too far. Yet as the fighters approached, the dreadnought did not retreat. Instead, the human fleet began to move. For the first time, their full formation revealed itself, a dozen colossal warships, their hulls gleaming with strange alloys, each bearing the mark of Earth's nations unified under a single banner. Smaller vessels, fast and sharp, flanked the giants, darting into position with military precision. It was a fleet not just built for show, but for war. And what the aliens did not yet understand was that this fleet had been waiting for this moment for a very long time. The first wave of alien fighters dove into Earth's atmosphere, streaking fire across the skies. Cities below trembled as sonic booms rattled windows and set off alarms. People huddled in streets and shelters, watching in terror as the war they had never imagined came crashing down upon them. But then, like arrows loosed from a hidden quiver, the smaller human ships surged forward. They moved with uncanny speed, slipping through the alien formations with maneuvers that defied prediction. Their weapons unleashed precise bursts of energy, shredding alien fighters in the hundreds. For every human shot, a ship fell. The aliens were trained for predictable resistance, but what they found instead was chaos controlled by cunning. Humanity did not fight like the empires. They fought like survivors who had clawed their way through every disaster history had thrown at them. Alien commanders snarled in frustration, deploying heavier ships into the fray. Cruisers and destroyers surged forward, their plasma cannons igniting the skies. Once again, the galaxy expected humanity to falter. And once again, humanity shocked them. As the alien ships opened fire, the human fleet shifted, their ships weaving together into tight formations. Invisible barriers flickered between them, shields, but not the kind the galaxy had ever seen. Instead of protecting only a single vessel, the shields connected ship to ship, creating a vast lattice of golden light that stretched like a net across the sky. The alien blast struck, but the shield absorbed them all, dispersing the energy harmlessly across the formation. On distant worlds, scientists watching the battle gasped, realizing what they were seeing. Humanity had not copied alien technology, they had improved it. Shield matrices this stable had been thought impossible, even by the most advanced races. Yet here was Earth, a so-called helpless world, doing it with ease. The lead dreadnought spoke again, its voice steady, broadcast to every channel across the stars. We are not prey. We are not helpless. We are human. And we are ready. The words ignited something across Earth. In bunkers and shelters, in skyscrapers and fields, people stood taller. Fear gave way to pride, to something deeper, unity. For the first time in centuries, the divisions of Earth meant nothing. It did not matter if they were American or Chinese, African or European. In this moment, they were one species, standing together against the dark. But for the galaxy, the speech was more than words. It was a warning. If humanity had the courage to defy, then perhaps other worlds could too. On planets where the empires ruled with iron fists, whispers spread. If humans can rise, why not us? The alien overlords understood the danger. If they failed to crush Earth now, rebellion could spread across the stars. That fear drove the next move. The Dominion Armada unleashed its greatest weapon, a capital ship the size of a city, bristling with enough firepower to burn a planet's surface to ash. It descended into orbit, its engines howling, casting Earth in its shadow. Its commander, filled with fury, gave a single order: obliterate them. The great ship fired. A beam of energy, brighter than the sun, lanced downward toward Earth. On the ground, people screamed, believing the end had come. The blast tore through the clouds, splitting the sky itself, heading straight for the planet. But then, in the final instant, the human dreadnought moved. Its golden shields flared, expanding outward until they covered not just the fleet but the planet itself. The beam struck, and for a heartbeat the shield wavered, the golden light flickering. Yet it held. The beam dispersed into nothingness, its power swallowed by Earth's defiance. When the light faded, the world still stood. The galaxy erupted in shock. This was no illusion. This was no trick. Humanity had shielded its entire planet. Even the greatest empires had failed to create such a defense. Now it was Earth, the forgotten world, that had done the impossible. The message was clear. Humanity had been underestimated. And now, the balance of the galaxy was about to change forever. The Dominion's capital ship hung over Earth like a dark god, its weapons glowing, its hull reflecting the fury of a species that had never once been challenged by prey. Across the galaxy, entire populations watched in silence, waiting for the inevitable counterstrike, waiting to see if humanity's miracle would end as quickly as it began. On Earth, people held their breath as the golden shield still shimmered across the skies, the symbol of their survival. For a moment, even the alien commander hesitated, staring at the shimmering barrier that had stopped a weapon meant to erase continents. In all his years of conquest, he had never witnessed such defiance from a world marked weak. He snarled, unwilling to believe that this was real. "Increase power," he ordered, his voice cutting through the silence of his crew. "No primitive can withstand the Dominion." The massive ship's weapons flared again, brighter, hotter, tearing open the darkness of space like a wound. But before the cannons could release their fury, something moved in the void, something the galaxy had not seen before. The human dreadnought shifted its formation, and with it, the entire fleet responded in perfect synchronization. The smaller ships darted outward like hawks circling prey, while the great ships turned, their golden veins blazing with power. On their hulls, ancient symbols of Earth's past empires glowed, eagles, dragons, lions, markings of nations that had once been divided, now united in fire. The lead ship's voice cut across the stars again, calm, almost cold. "You brought war to our sky. Now you will see Earth's answer." With that, the human fleet fired. It was not a single cannon blast, not a reckless storm of missiles like the galaxy expected from a desperate world. It was something far more precise, far more terrifying. From each human warship, streams of golden energy arced outward, weaving together like strands of light. The beams did not fire in random directions, they converged, every blast channeling into a single point. That point struck the Dominion's capital ship directly in its heart. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the impossible occurred. The great ship's armor, layered with centuries of advanced alloys, strengthened by technology stolen from dozens of conquered worlds, shattered. The beam carved through the capital ship as though it were made of glass. Its core ruptured in an explosion of crimson fire, and for the first time in living memory, a Dominion superweapon was destroyed not by sabotage, not by collapse, but in open battle. The wreckage burned across the void, its pieces tumbling into Earth's atmosphere, breaking apart in fiery streaks. On the ground, billions watched in disbelief as alien fire became shooting stars above their heads. Humanity had struck back, and won. Across the galaxy, reactions rippled like shockwaves. In secret colonies under alien rule, people cheered in silence, their voices hushed in fear of their masters but their hearts alight with hope. In the palaces of the great empires, rulers stared at the feeds with cold terror. Humanity had not only defended itself, it had revealed a weapon the galaxy could not understand. Coordinated energy convergence on that scale had been theorized, but dismissed as impossible. Yet humans had done it, and done it with elegance. Whispers spread fast. If Earth could destroy the Dominion's greatest weapon in seconds, what else were they hiding? Back in orbit, the alien fleet wavered. Their formations, once tight and disciplined, began to fracture. The commanders screamed for them to advance, to avenge their fallen flagship, but hesitation had already taken root. The prey had shown teeth sharper than anything they had faced before. Some ships pulled back, engines flaring as fear overtook pride. The human fleet pressed forward. Smaller ships darted into alien formations, cutting them apart with surgical precision. Dreadnoughts advanced like unstoppable giants, their golden shields deflecting plasma fire, their cannons glowing with the promise of annihilation. Humanity was not merely surviving, it was dominating. On Earth, in command centers buried deep underground, Human generals exchanged grim nods. Their secret, hidden for decades, was now revealed to the galaxy. They had planned for this day, prepared for it, knowing it would come sooner or later. While alien empires had believed them distracted by petty wars, humanity had been building, learning, stealing fragments of alien knowledge from the shadows, and combining it with their own relentless ingenuity. Now that work had bloomed into fire. Humanity's leaders knew there was no turning back. From this moment forward, Earth would never again be hidden. In the alien command ship, rage consumed the surviving general. His species had never known defeat, never known humiliation. To be broken here, by humans, was unthinkable. All ships, all weapons, annihilate them, he screamed, his voice cracking with fury. Thousands of alien ships surged forward in one final desperate push. Plasma beams, missiles, and ion storms filled the sky, converging on the human fleet. It was the kind of attack that had crushed empires. Yet the humans did not scatter. Their fleet closed ranks, the golden net of their shields glowing brighter, stronger, as if fueled by the fire of their own determination. The alien assault struck with all its fury, and broke. When the barrage faded, the human fleet was still there, untouched. And then came the counterstrike. Hundreds of human ships opened fire at once, golden light pouring into the void like a new sunrise. Alien vessels burst apart in waves, their wreckage scattering into the darkness. The galaxy, watching from 1,000 worlds, understood what they were seeing. Humanity had not just defended itself, it had risen. It had declared itself a power, and it had done so in front of every eye. On Earth, the people who had once looked to the stars with fear now looked with pride. The age of hiding was over. Their fleet had revealed itself, and with it, their place among the stars had changed forever. The galaxy had expected a helpless world. What they found instead was a force that could shake civilizations. And as the last of the alien fleet burned in orbit, one thought echoed through every mind, both human and alien: this was only the beginning. Whispers spread faster than light. Across the galaxy, in glittering palaces and hidden slave camps, in the markets of neutral worlds and the war councils of ancient empires, the name Earth passed from mouth to mouth like fire through dry grass. A planet thought weak, a people marked for conquest, had done the unthinkable. They had shattered a Dominion capital ship and torn apart an invading fleet. In every transmission, in every replay, the same images burned themselves into memory: the golden shield covering Earth, the human dreadnought's steady voice, and the blinding counterstrike that turned a symbol of Dominion power into wreckage. For the first time in generations, the galaxy had seen something greater than fear. It had seen defiance. On the Dominion homeworld, the High Council gathered in fury. The great chamber of obsidian stone trembled with the roars of its members. These were beings who had ruled with terror for centuries, beings who had crushed every rival with overwhelming force. Yet now their composure cracked. "Impossible," one snarled, his tendrils lashing the air. "No backwater species can wield such power." Another hissed, "It was not their power, it was stolen. They must have allies. Some traitor empire must have given them technology." But the recordings proved otherwise. The human fleet's weapons were unlike any known system, their shields operating on principles alien to alien science itself. Humanity had not stolen, humanity had created. That realization unsettled even the Dominion's most ruthless warlords. If humans could rise so far from nothing, what might they become tomorrow? On other worlds, the news was not met with anger but with hope. In mining colonies where slaves broke their bodies for the Dominion, workers lifted their heads and whispered, "Did you see it?" The humans stood. In marketplaces where smugglers traded in secret, deals shifted, voices hushed as captains muttered, "Maybe Earth will fight for more than itself. Maybe they will break the chains." The idea spread like a disease no empire could control. If Earth could resist, others might rise too. Rebellion stirred in the shadows, 1,000 sparks waiting for air. Meanwhile, on Earth, the mood was unlike anything the planet had ever known. In the ruins of cities, in shelters beneath the ground, in villages far from the chaos of orbit, people looked up at the night sky not with fear but with pride. For centuries they had dreamed of stars, imagining them distant, unreachable. Now they knew those stars were filled with enemies, but they also knew they had the strength to stand among them. News broadcasts replayed the battle endlessly, showing the golden shields, the great dreadnought, the impossible victory. Children painted ships on walls, soldiers stood taller in their uniforms, and ordinary workers volunteered for new programs being announced every hour. The secret fleet that had once been hidden was now a symbol for all of humanity. For the first time in history, Earth was united not by borders or politics, but by survival and triumph. In underground bunkers, human leaders met in tense silence. Generals, scientists, and diplomats sat around vast tables, their faces lit by holograms of the galaxy. They had planned for this moment, but none of them had expected such an overwhelming victory. And yet, they all understood the truth: it was only the beginning. The Dominion would not rest. Other empires, once content to ignore Earth, would now turn their eyes toward it with fear, suspicion, or hunger. "We cannot wait for them to come again," one general said, his voice iron. "The fight will not end at Earth. We must take it to the stars." But others counseled caution. "If we move too quickly, we will provoke every empire at once. We need allies. We need time." The debate raged, but in the end, they all knew the truth: Earth had already declared itself. The galaxy was watching, and humanity could no longer remain hidden. Above Earth, the fleet gathered. Damage was repaired, new formations tested, communication strengthened. For the first time, messages were sent beyond Earth's orbit, not in secret but openly. To the colonies long enslaved, to the neutral systems that had hidden from the Dominion's wrath, a simple transmission repeated across the stars: "Earth stands. Humanity fights. You are not alone." It was both a declaration and an invitation. In distant systems, alien rulers trembled. Some scoffed, dismissing humanity as reckless. "They won one battle," sneered a monarch wrapped in gold. "One victory means nothing against centuries of dominion." But even he tightened his guard, ordering fleets to ready themselves. Others were less confident. Some saw opportunity: perhaps humanity could be a weapon, a tool to use against rivals. Still others felt something they had not felt in lifetimes: fear. Because if humans could do this with one hidden fleet, what might they unleash tomorrow? In secret, emissaries moved. A race long enslaved sent hidden signals toward Earth, desperate to reach the humans who had shattered the Dominion's myth of invincibility. Smugglers rerouted ships, carrying whispers and data through dangerous space. Even within the Dominion itself, cracks widened. Officers who had once obeyed without question now hesitated, haunted by the image of their capital ship breaking under golden fire. The idea that the Dominion was untouchable had been broken. And once broken, such myths never fully healed. But not all the galaxy was inspired. In shadowed councils, darker voices spoke. "If humanity spreads its influence, everything changes," hissed an old ruler, his eyes like burning coals. "Better to crush them now, before their fire spreads." Already, fleets were mobilizing, alliances whispered into being. Plans for war shifted to include a new enemy: Earth. The galaxy was aligning for a storm greater than any before. On Earth itself, none of this mattered to the mechanic who once fixed ships in silence. He now stood in the command center of a dreadnought, watching the stars as messages flooded in from across the galaxy. He had never asked to be part of history, never asked to stand in the gaze of billions. But here he was, and in his eyes burned the same fire that now spread through humanity itself. A quiet thought crossed his mind, one that echoed in the hearts of every human who had seen the impossible and survived it: if this is what we did today, what will we do tomorrow? The galaxy trembled, and Earth stood at its center. What had begun as a desperate defense was now something larger, a spark that threatened to ignite every corner of known space. The Dominion's humiliation was burned into the minds of billions, and while some species whispered of freedom, others sharpened their blades. Earth had revealed itself, and with that revelation came a price: it could never return to the shadows. The human fleet's victory had shattered the myth of galactic invincibility, but now the galaxy wanted proof. Was Earth truly strong, or had it only won a lucky battle? In orbit, the human dreadnought Horizon served as the new heart of humanity's campaign. Its command decks bustled with activity, voices relaying signals from across the stars. Every hour brought new transmissions: pleas for help from enslaved colonies, threats from powerful empires, and veiled offers of alliance from rulers who saw opportunity in the chaos. Humanity had gone from invisible to infamous overnight, and the weight of it pressed against every decision. "We cannot stay on Earth," one admiral said firmly, her eyes fixed on the glowing galaxy map before her. "If we remain here, we invite annihilation. The Dominion will come again, and this time they will not underestimate us. The mechanic who had once been no one stood quietly at the edge of the room, listening. He was no admiral, no general, but after the shield had risen, after the golden miracle had turned despair into triumph, people looked at him differently. Some whispered he was a symbol, others said he was fate itself given form. He did not feel like either. He was just a man who had been in the right place when the stars called. Yet as he stood there, watching humanity's leaders argue, he knew the truth. They were no longer deciding whether to leave Earth. They were deciding how far to go. The vote came quickly. Humanity would take the fleet beyond the solar system, not as wanderers, but as a power declaring itself to the galaxy. Earth would no longer hide. Earth would stand. The decision carried a heavy silence, one that seemed to echo across the decks. They all knew the risks. Once humanity moved beyond its cradle, there would be no turning back. The first mission was chosen carefully. Intelligence had revealed a Dominion outpost not far from human space, a slave world stripped of freedom, its people forced to mine resources for their masters. Its defenses were strong but not impenetrable. More importantly, its liberation would send a message louder than any broadcast. If Earth could strike into Dominion territory and free the oppressed, the galaxy would know humanity's resolve. The fleet prepared. Warships, once hidden beneath Earth's oceans and buried within mountains, now assembled in formation, their golden shields glowing faintly in the darkness. Smaller vessels darted between them, carrying supplies, engineers, and soldiers who had never before set foot in space. For many, it was the first time they had seen the stars up close, the first time they understood that humanity's future no longer belonged to Earth alone. In training bays, soldiers drilled with quiet determination, knowing they were not just fighting for themselves but for every voice across the galaxy that had whispered, "If Earth can stand, maybe so can we." The journey to the outpost was filled with tension. Scouts reported strange movements in nearby systems, signals traced back to empires that had once ignored Earth but were now watching closely. Some fleets shadowed the humans from afar, keeping their distance but never leaving their sight. Humanity had become a spectacle, and every move they made was dissected by unseen eyes. In quiet moments, the mechanic found himself staring at the void beyond the ship's glass. He wondered if this was how it always began, one act of defiance leading to wars too vast to imagine. Yet even as doubt pressed on him, the memory of Earth's shield held steady in his heart. Humanity had survived the impossible once. It would do so again. When the fleet arrived at the slave world, the sight chilled every human heart. The planet's surface was scarred, forests burned away, oceans poisoned by relentless mining. Massive spires of machinery pierced the sky, and orbiting above it were Dominion warships, their hulls glinting like blades. On the planet below, billions toiled under watchful drones, their lives nothing but fuel for the Empire. The Dominion had grown comfortable in their cruelty, never imagining an enemy would dare to challenge them here. That arrogance was about to be broken. The order was given, and the human fleet descended. Golden shields flared to life as Dominion ships scrambled to respond. Alarms echoed across their channels, confusion in their voices. To them, humanity was still an upstart, a fluke of resistance, not a force that could challenge them in their own territory. They were wrong. The battle was swift and merciless. Human ships moved with precision, weaving golden beams into patterns that sliced through Dominion formations. Their shields absorbed counterstrikes that should have burned them from the stars. For every human vessel that shook under fire, 3 Dominion ships fell. The mechanic, standing in the command chamber, watched it unfold with awe. It was not just technology. It was willpower. Humanity fought not only for victory but for meaning. On the planet below, the golden light of human ships cut through the clouds. For the slaves who had known nothing but despair, it was like watching the sun rise for the first time. When the Dominion's defenses collapsed, human landing craft descended, carrying soldiers who bore not chains but hope. The mechanic watched on the screens as prisoners were freed, their voices rising in disbelief. Some wept. Some shouted. And all of them repeated the same words as the human broadcast filled the air, "You are not alone." The galaxy heard those words. Broadcasts spread across the stars, carrying images of Dominion warships burning, of liberated people raising their hands to the sky. For the first time in living memory, the Dominion had lost not to another empire, but to those they had dismissed as helpless prey. Humanity had done the impossible again. But with victory came danger. The message reached allies and enemies alike. To the oppressed, Earth was salvation. To the rulers of the galaxy, Earth was a threat that had to be crushed before it spread further. As the human fleet regrouped, preparing for the wars to come, the mechanic stood at the viewport, staring at the endless stars. He understood now, this was no longer about Earth alone. This was about the galaxy itself. And the galaxy was about to change forever.